Welcome back to Choreograph Critics. It's been a little bit. Today we're going to discuss the Elimination Chamber and some of the events from the last month that we have not covered yet. Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm John. Joining me as
Welcome,
always is
welcome.
Joel.
Yeah, we're back. Wow, it's our absence. It seems indefinite, but that's not true. We're here. We're present. Yeah, it's been a brutal winter. Some illness impeded our progress here. We wanted to get our 2 cents in with the Rumble, and here we are today, John. We're kind of recapping the Rumble, a bit belated, but better late than never, as they say.
Yeah, definitely. Some life events, some illness. There's all the excuses in the world, but we're gonna be
There you
back
go.
here.
Yeah.
um, the Royal Rumble itself, I enjoyed a lot. Like there were some very good matches throughout. Well, there were only four because two of them are an hour and a half. Um, but yeah, so the event itself, I enjoyed. A lot of stuff that is like kind of offshoot from it hasn't been the greatest, and a lot of just direction of things lately hasn't been the greatest. So we'll be getting into that here.
This had to been the best women's Royal Rumble I've seen. I will give it that. That was my first impression going into the Royal Rumble, John. I said, wow, a lot of creative caution was taken with the women's Royal Rumble. We had surprises, but yet at the end of the day, the outcome, a lot of people were saying, I don't know. Is the Queen welcome? Is she really to capitulate to the throne? Do we need her? Because they have developed so many young talents with her gone that I didn't feel it necessary for her to win the Rumble.
Right, and she was gone at least 7 months, I think, and just kind of got like a prime position in the Rumble. She entered at 27. There's only
Of
30,
course.
so she basically entered at the end. She was the only entrance, at least in the women's side. I can't remember the men's, but the only entrance with pyro. It's not something they do. um, so they rolled out the red carpet for her. She got a couple eliminations, and at the end, she ended up eliminating Nia Jax and then Roxanne Perez, who Roxanne was in there for, I believe it was an hour 15,
Ooh,
hour 20. She entered at number three, and officially set a record there.
strong performance. Yeah, strong performance. How about those crossovers? We saw a lot of crossovers. We know WWE Creative has officially merged business wise. They are affiliated with TNA. Um, and I thought that was really neat, on the men's side, the women's side, to see those crossovers. The fans seem pleased. I will say this: Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton and their feud, there's a lot of life left in that. And for them to snuff it out so quickly with Charlotte Flair was a little bit off putting. That was my main problem with them crowning her Royal Rumble Queen again. You just had this wonderful segment where you had months of deliberation between Nia Jax being the what? Queen of the Ring. And there again, John, so this is coming to my mind as we speak. Why doesn't why doesn't Charlotte Flair have a problem with Nia Jax before Tiffany? Why are we going straight to Tiffany? Because I feel like Tiffany can easily have a rematch with Nia Jax before she ever touches anything creatively with Flair.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I mean, the queen versus queen thing, that was always just there. Um, uh, so Yeah, we both didn't like the end. But yeah, the crossover was great. They had both of the NXT women's champions in there. They had Julia, spelled with a G, Giulia. She's half Asian, half Italian. For anyone wondering what that name, where that came from. Um,
Ain't nothing but a G thing, baby.
and Roxanne, we just talked about. She was the former NXT Women's Champion, and Stephanie Vaquer, who I don't know if she was the NXT Women's North American Champion yet at the time of the Rumble, but as of now, she is. Um,
Sure.
so that's three of their biggest stars. I thought we were going to see Sol Ruka in there. We didn't,
Mm,
but let's see. Like it, she could have easily taken like the Nikki Bella spot, or something like that, and just something that
right.
nobody really
That
cared
one
about.
off. Yeah.
Um,
Alexa Bliss.
yeah, Alexa Bliss returned. She got maybe the biggest pop out of all the people for her entering. Maybe not the men's side, but on the women's.
Oh, for sure. With that in mind, yeah, I'd agree with you. It's been a long time coming. You know, when I first started tuning in, it was hard to tell between Alexa Bliss um, and Liv Morgan.
Um,
They're creatively, they're so similar, right? So I hope going forward we get some differentiation, especially with the Wyatt Six involvement. But yeah, it was nice to see her back. Gosh, but the ending, yeah, everything until the end was entertaining. They
yeah,
had a lot of spots that were incredible between Bianca Belair, Liv Morgan, Alexa Bliss. Oh, and sorry, I just had something fall from my mic,
no, you're good.
technical error. um, but yeah, so the pacing of the Rumble, very good, very good. There was so much thought put into it. I felt like for the first time, I said this earlier, that we had enough creative endpoint to put it on par with the men's. And in fact, I would go as far as to say that the women's rumble was on par with all the previous men's rumbles. Um, we've we've slowly amplified the bar for the women's division given the United States and intercontinental angle we have now. We have so many titles for them to fight over, so many more competitors. But do you think we will see any mainstays or re-entries from the Rumble that we saw, for instance, from TNA? Are we going to get more crossover on weekly shows, or is this specifically for PLEs?
Well, it's been mainly NXT, right? Like, there's been a
Sure.
lot of TNA talent going to NXT and a lot of NXT talent going to TNA. On Tuesday, the Hardys are actually defending the TNA tag titles on NXT, so that'll
Yeah, it's
be
weird.
really interesting. Um, and so on the women's match, I don't know if you can remind me who was from TNA there. I know that Jordan Grace was from TNA, but they actually signed her to WWE.
Oh, they
Um,
did. Okay. Well, that would be in my mind. Yeah.
okay. I didn't know if there was
Yeah.
anyone else for the
No,
women's.
no. Grace was in my mind. So she's officially signed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's on
Okay.
NXT now. Like,
And
actually,
without
not.
getting sure, without getting ahead of ourselves too with Joe, Joe showing up. That was so great. We'll get there, but oh my God, having Roman Reigns and Joe
Yeah,
have
it's
that head-on collision. Oh, I laugh so hard because you have this grassroots organic character who's completely over with the marks. And then you have Roman Reigns, this yearly reiteration, slowly transfigured superstar coming face to face with this guy. And you could tell the crowd was just like, yes, this is great. I want to see more of this, but only at the Rumble, right? We're not going to see too much of this. And that's my feeling, and that's fine. But good for WWE, good for integration, good for openness to kind of give spotlight and airtime to these lesser known characters.
Yeah, definitely. Um, well, I guess to shoot off of that a little bit, it's interesting that they're doing that, but then at the same time, like 3 hour SmackDown's been terrible. Like I feel like they
Yeah,
have that like real estate to do what you were just saying, and they just haven't.
and they don't, right?
Yeah, but
And,
I guess real quick to put a bow on the women's Rumble match,
mhm.
I would give it a letter grade of a B plus. I was going to be in the A
Same boat.
territory, but the Charlotte thing just knocked it down a couple pegs.
Put a damper on it, right? I was like, God, this is one of the best women's rumbles I've ever seen. In fact, it's something I'm not going to skip. Okay, I get it. I know what you're doing here. You want the bombshell blonde versus queen, legacy versus newbie. You want her to prove herself at WrestleMania, yada, yada, yada. But, yeah, completely inappropriate. Did we need Charlotte Flair to win? No, we didn't. The women's division is doing well without her.
Definitely. Um, I guess the one like point, I guess, to give it to somebody like Charlotte, or like to give Tiffany an opponent like Charlotte, rather, is we haven't really seen her against vets on the main roster other than Nia Jax, I guess. So like this is like somebody really important for her to beat. Whether or not she does, I is yet to be seen. I would probably be more mad about her losing to Charlotte at Mania than just about anything, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, that would be a long haul of drivel, in my opinion, after all the investment they put into Tiffany.
Yeah. Um.
Um, B plus, yeah, through and through. B plus would have been an A if they would have finished with some more interest, but no, very generic finish. Um, and of course, now we pivot to the weekly programming, and we are left with out of the blue, we get the heel Trish Stratus. Thank you, Trish. And now all of a sudden, we are seeing the pairing with her and Tiffany, to bombshells going at it versus Nia Jax. I didn't like how they rushed into this, and I felt like it was slightly inappropriate for the building of good storyline because Tiffany, she is a bit of a tweener, right? She's in
Yeah.
between things. The only reason we have her over is because Nia Jax is so disliked, and we had that underdog, suppressed individual getting taken advantage of. She has the money in the briefcase, waiting on standby. When is she going to cash it in? Well, she cashed it in. That was a big success. And then out of nowhere, we have Trish Stratus in the audience being like, you know what? I'm just going to team up with Tiffany. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is a bit forced. I thought we could maybe do this elegantly with a rematch with Nia Jax, because let's just be honest, Nia Jax deserves a rematch. And Charlotte Flair can be put on the back burner, but instead we get this weird tag team match at Elimination Chamber. Feels very forced, inappropriate. I don't know if this helps Tiffany Stratton's career.
No, probably not. And you got to remember the geography factor. They're like, "Oh, it's
Sure.
Canada, Trish."
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
That's
Yeah.
that's why they're doing KO and Sami Zayn. But
Yeah, the
um,
pandering. Yep.
so yeah, I guess unless you have anything else with that, we can move on.
No, we sound like we're on the same page for the
Yeah.
women's division where they're at.
After that was 2 out of 3 falls tag match, DIY Motor City Machine Guns. Um, I don't really want to get into the nitty gritty of this. It was really well paced, though, I felt like, and um, like what was it? There was something at the beginning that was like kind of neat. Um, oh, it was confusion. Here's what it was. So they had like the fake tag spot. So like Gargano gets whipped
Okay.
in the corner. Champa looks like he's going to tag Gargano, but doesn't actually.
Okay.
And then one of the machine guns goes to pin Gargano, goes to pin Champa, who never tagged in, and then
Yeah,
Gargano
yeah.
got the quick pinfall right away. Um,
That was the highlight, I feel, of the pacing. Which team had the most collaboration and who had they who had the most in tune performance were going to come away with the victory. I will say, from a technical perspective, the match was good. Um, yeah, so Motor City Machine Guns themselves, I can see why Triple H likes them. They can't go wrong. As a tag team, they're so in tune. There's nothing that has to be forced. There's nothing that has to be pushed or pulled. Whenever they step into the ring, they're on the same page. Okay? Uh, Do it yourself, DIY, they are on the same page, but they lack, and it's not a lack of experience. There's something, there's something about Motor City where dare I say it, are better performers stamina wise than DIY. And so once you got a little further into that match, you got to see that play out. I'm personally okay. So the context, we got to see Johnny turn at SmackDown, didn't we? Like
yep.
we got to see that live. We were there in the crowd. That was great. So we're a little partial to them being champion. I feel Um, but Motor City, dude, they're so much fun to watch when they perform. I'm never let down. Like I rarely skip through their matches, even when they're versing people that I go, man, I know what the outcome's going to be because technically their prowess is superb. So I gave this match a solid B, not a B plus, not a B minus. I gave it a B, and I think they deserve the titles back, but I understand why they're hanging on with Johnny and Champo. You're a big fan of DIY, right?
Oh yeah, yep. They had one of my favorite feuds as single competitors in NXT, um, like 2020, 2019. But what was I gonna say there? So DIY, yeah, I see where you're coming from with the stamina stuff. The one thing I don't like about Motor City is that they just seem like I don't. They seem like somebody that's new to the workforce, even though they're not. Like they have this attitude coming in, like they
Okay.
aren't like cynical yet from being there. Like they're like, we're here to face the
Oh,
best, and
sure.
like, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of just I I don't know. It doesn't work for me. But them as
A little
like
too bubbly.
athletes, I think they're very good in the ring, and they're yeah they like you said the stamina's great. Like we saw them that one night. They like went a double header essentially to get the titles in the first
Yeah.
place. So
Yeah, that was awesome.
yeah,
But I can see where you're coming from. They have this can do. They're like can do attitude. I can do it. We can do it. Let's do it. And so you're like, okay, Motor City, but is there some depth to you?
yeah, and it's like you're
So I
40,
I
so it's
totally
not
get
like
that.
you're new to wrestling. Um,
Yeah,
but
a little
I
bit of Mickey Mouse enthusiasm.
right exactly. So I landed on B also. Um,
Okay.
DIY retained. And then after that we had Cody versus Kevin Owens, which was my favorite match. I don't know if that's how you felt, but
It was brutal.
it was very brutal. There's a lot of just taking things out of Cody that we hadn't seen from him as babyface WWE Cody. So it was a very emotional and story driven match. Um,
Yep.
did you have anything specifically about it you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, yeah. I felt like this was the most vulnerable we've seen Cody, not safe with regards to the extreme measure he would take to be a performer. to entertain the audience in a hardcore or extreme rules match, to the point where, from a business perspective, you need to ask yourself, will Cody make it through this match to perform his next PLE, next weekly show? And I felt like Kevin Owens is becoming slowly the mascot of Extreme.
Okay.
Not necessarily within his gimmick, but within his performance. He's okay. And to capstone that perspective, he's the only wrestler right now who is permitted to hit pile drivers as a story angle, right? So he's become the hero of Extreme per se. And this is maybe a side tangent. I thought when we launched on Netflix we would get a return of the Hardcore Championship, but that's neither here nor there. But KO is a good candidate for it given his track record as of late. One thing I thought, beyond the dangerous compulsion of these two taking it to the limit in this ladder match, I thought that I saw spots that I haven't seen before that legitimately made me go, "Oh, no. Oh, don't do that." And um I really did think that, geez, Cody could have gotten hurt, and this could have changed the road to WrestleMania substantially. They took a gamble letting these two go at it full fledged in this ladder match.
Yeah, and that just shows the confidence they have in Kevin. Like you were saying,
These
nobody
two
else can
performers.
just like do a pile driver. um, I mean, you could argue a sunset or not a sunset. What's it called? The Canadian Destroyer. Like it's kind of
Sure.
pile driver e.
Oh, the Mexican destroyer,
Mexican Destroyer. Yeah,
Hispanic destroyer. Yeah, whatever. It's a destroyer. Penta, right?
yeah, Penta. Yeah, he basically makes you do like a full like cannonball roll into a pile driver. Um,
Jesus.
but yeah, so I thought there was a good chance Kevin actually got hurt at the end. I don't mean to fast forward, but there yeah, one thing that I thought was kind of interesting, so we didn't mention at the top, commentary was Michael Cole, Pat McAfee, and Wade Barrett, and Wade Barrett hasn't been really doing commentary for PLEs. So that was a interesting addition. But anyways, during this match, there was a spot where Cody broke off the bottom rung of the ladder and started using that as a weapon,
Yep.
and that was
Yep.
in reference to a time where Wade Barrett and Cody had a match, and Wade Barrett did that to Cody, and they talked about that on commentary. So I thought that was
I
pretty
remember that.
interesting.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna go to the end where I was talking about where I thought Kevin got hurt. Um,
Yeah, no, the end with the Alabama slam, right?
yeah, he gets it. Cody Alabama slams him through a ladder, which
Um,
is suspended between the ring and the announce table.
yeah. Right.
Yeah, so got slammed right in the middle of it, and the Alabama slam, like to try to visualize it, like it's like them catapulting over. So like your head
Upper
almost,
back, neck first.
yeah, and that part of your body almost touches the ground when you're like getting lifted over by the person, and then it's just like a full like boom. And
How
yeah,
do you bump for that, John?
I don't know, like I really have no idea, because he definitely landed on his head. He definitely, like, you could see weight of his body on his neck. Like I have no idea how you do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so there's okay. So my first instinct when I saw that, my a little lineage here. My grandfather was a hot on top, roofs. And my dad too, for a time, had got caught in between the steps, And when I saw Kevin Owens take the bump for that Alabama Slam, it immediately reminded me of the story I heard from my father saying, "Hey, I had my neck caught in between the two things," and he was like worried he'd pinch a nerve or even break his neck. And I thought immediately, I thought, how the hell do you bump for that? There is no faking that. That is full transfiguration. That is collision that you cannot bump for, because typically when you take a fall on the top of your back, they have ways to get the shoulder blades to absorb the impact, and they know how to land. But I feel like there's no training for what Kevin absorbed.
Yeah, I feel like it's just something we don't understand about the human body. Like it's like I
Sure.
don't like an adjacent to like a callus, but for bending a vertebrae. I don't know, but like it's just
Yeah, he channeled Sabu or something.
Sabu. Holy crap! Yeah. Um,
Talk about bump machine. He'd bump all day and come out, and next week he was there.
something I probably should have brought up first. I think it was before this happened that Sami Zayn came out, or was it when this happened? I can't remember.
Yeah, it was the idea that there was some real hardship there for a friend to see a friend take a fall like that. Looking back now, it looks like they were setting up that confrontation. I will get there, but I will say I'm a little dissatisfied with how forceful WWE has been with the Sammy KO angle. And like you said, going into Toronto, WWE is like, we have to have it here. We have to have it now. And it's like, yeah, do you have to? Because right now it feels like KO is just unhinged and throwing fisherman pile drivers to whomever he pleases to get the ball rolling for stories that don't have to happen.
Yeah.
And that's so with Sammy coming out and being like, "Are you okay, Kevin? Oh my gosh, I'm not going to do any feel for you." Um, I don't know if it was necessary, and I don't know if they could have done anything more to make it feel like Zayn actually cared.
Right. And I I've like joked about this before, but like I don't really like the whole them representing Canada thing just because Canada's huge. Like they act like
Yeah,
Canada's
yeah,
Kuwait. So like anywhere they go in Canada,
yeah.
they're like representing Canada. And it's like they're from
Sure,
Winnipeg or Montreal. I think it's Montreal they're from. And they're going to be in
yeah,
Toronto for this chamber match, but it was the same thing with Bret the Hitman Hart, the Montreal Screwjob. He's not from Montreal.
sure,
Like, why are we?
sure.
Anyways, um,
We're the French Canadians. And KO, out of all three of those mentioned, KO is the only one with a Canadian accent. He's
yeah,
like,
and
yeah, sure, you betcha. Like
right,
it's that Minnesotan Canadian drawl.
and English is his second language, actually. So, yeah,
See, there you go. I didn't know that. Thank you. Fun
yeah,
fact. And that makes sense though, because he has a strong accent where like when I hear Sami Zayn, he's like, Kevin, I'm gonna be giving it my all. And you know how he cuts promos these days with like he's out of breath and he's super vegan and he's low on iron and but no, you're right. They do pretend like this is some weird Canadian super feud when at the end of the day, their friendship transcends their locality. And they do not need to exploit the location to have their friendship be the pillar of this feud.
yeah, and I don't know. Like, I think there's a lot of talent from, let's say, New York, that's closer to Toronto
Yeah.
than Montreal. Like, are they gonna start saying they're Toronto? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
anyways,
Fabian Priest, New York street trash.
yeah, New York street trash, repping Canada. Um,
Yeah. Repping
so
Toronto.
yeah, so after the Alabama Slam, Sammy was out there, whether or not it was then or a little bit before that he actually entered. And he was checking on Cody concerned, or sorry, KO concerned, and
Mm-hmm.
that's
Sure.
when Cody climbs up and gets the titles, no problem. 'Cause KO's
My
down for
precious. Sure.
Cody was or KO's down for quite a bit. Um, I gave this match an A.
Yeah, so I gave it an A minus. I can totally go with an A. Um, but I gave it an A minus just for the fact that I really, so this is going to sound weird. The reason why I deducted some points from it is I really thought it was a bit reckless for Rhodes.
Mm,
He's the face of the company, and I felt like to overextend his exuberance and make him so vulnerable that he could get injured was reckless on the part for him being the face of the company on the road to WrestleMania. If we're talking about like Backlash or something right after Mania, yeah, go hard, go balls to the wall, let KO have his way, and let these guys throw their spines onto the curvature of these weird ladders. But to be so close to the big show of shows made me question if WWE is looking to pivot. Are they hoping to pivot, or do they not know what to do with Rhodes creatively? Are these like last ditch efforts to make Cody interesting? Because let's face it, since Reigns, he hasn't had very interesting title feuds.
no, not at all. Yeah,
They
I'm
didn't
there
even
with you.
throw Orton at him. Yeah, they didn't even throw Orton at him, and I think that's part of the frustration, John. We've been a bit disappointed with the caliber of storytelling as of compared to the 2024 season slash 2023 season, because I feel like the story Cody enveloped and delivered was a 2 year story. And that was wonderful. The long form storytelling. I have friends who are not into wrestling, John. Hey, you want to see something quasi highbrow, something somewhat intellectual for creative storytelling? Tune into wrestling right now. They are no longer on a whim way feuds. They are no longer trashing these promos. We have long form storytelling happening with the bloodline, with Sami Zayn getting betraying the bloodline, being an honorary. You remember that? That was wonderful. To this day, I still look back at the French show that they had between AJ Styles and Rhodes, and that Canadian show with Reigns and Zayn as some of the best examples of the HHH era, Paul Levesque era, and how you can have wrestlers so over with the crowd that it's inexplicable. There is no way you can miss. I suppose it is explicable. There's no way you can miss the fact that these guys are over. So anyway, going back to my frustration, I feel like lately they haven't been very diligent with Rhodes, given the track record and how much effort they put into putting the title on him and getting him over. And now they're like, no, we're not even going to throw Orton at him. Let's just have him face this guy. Let's have him face this guy. And oh yeah, let's have KO just flip out. He's crazy, right? Yeah, let's have him flip out on Rhodes, and let's just have that pivot into another Zayn match. So they've been a bit lazy with this, um, but great match. And then thereafter, if you don't have anything else to go off of with Rhodes and uh, KO, I'd like to examine what followed.
Yeah, I guess just after the match, I'll bring this up quick. They announced WWE Evolve, which is like a new developmental
That's
brand.
right.
Um, so I'm unofficially coining the three shows of Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, calling them two and a half brands.
Drum roll. Yeah, drum roll, please.
Two and a half brands. That's what I'm
Two
calling
and a half brands. It's better than two and a half men.
Yeah, because like I feel like NXT is almost like a third main brand, but it's not developmental
Quasi, right?
really anymore. So it's like a half brand. Um,
Is it a bad decision to have the crossovers with TNA be limited to their quasi developmental brand? Like, I feel like there's no reason why we can't have.
yeah, I think the thing is just they've always just felt like they're above. Like everybody's the minor leagues to WWE, so they're gonna have the WWE's version of the minor leagues interact with who they think are the actual minor leagues, which is TNA and these
Sure.
indies. Um,
Sure.
that's what I think, anyway.
I mean, expand scouting, do it. I'm all for it. They have, I think we discussed previously on our show, the patient of KO mental shows on it. So they're definitely diversifying. But at what point do you think NXT needs to be recognized as a legitimate platform? Like, would it be smart in your eyes to have NXT be the non-cable, non-premium subscription show? Like, could it be the old SmackDown just on Fox, etc.?
Well, technically it is because it's on CW, and CW is
Okay,
public, like free TV. Um,
okay.
it's just nobody cares about CW. It's the problem. So,
And what if they had PLEs for NXT on CW? Like, what
oh,
if
if they did
they
that,
kind
yeah,
of
that'd be interesting.
that,
Cause
that
yeah,
would be interesting.
cause yeah, right now they just house their PLEs on Peacock like everything else. Um, so yeah, that would be, or like if CW has like their own app or something, like maybe it's on the CW app, or but I think
Yeah.
CW is technically owned by uh Warner Brothers, Time Warner Discovery. So
Okay.
that would fall under Max. So like I don't think they want to have I don't think they want to have NXT on Max because that's where they just moved all of AEW stuff to. Um,
Sure.
so it's already kind of weird that they're on technically sibling networks. CW and TNT are technically same umbrella.
Yeah,
Um,
it's odd. Yeah.
but yeah. So Evolve was an independent promotion that WWE bought in like I want to say 2021. I think it was like the pandemic killed it kind of thing, and they just
What's the lineage there, John? Do you know? Like, does it come out of any of those territorial networking?
mm, I don't know if it was a well, maybe like I think they had like a home base like where they would shoot their
Okay.
television, which I think they had some stuff on YouTube, but otherwise it was like a subscription kind of thing on Fight TV, which does like
Okay.
a lot of overseas pay-per-views kind of thing. So like AEW's pay-per-views are on there and that kind of thing. And so there's been a lot of people that have been through Evolve. I can't think of any other than Austin Theory right now, but that's where Austin Theory came from.
That
Um,
makes sense. Yeah. Vince's golden boy.
yeah. um, so yeah, it sounds like they're gonna have their own title, and it looks like it's run out of the Performance Center like NXT. So yeah, it'll be interesting. That's gonna air on Tubi, which is a free app. Um,
Yep.
so that's gonna be on Wednesdays, which is when AEW airs. So
Yep.
um,
Yep.
anyways, okay, so yeah, going back to you were gonna discuss something happened following KO and Sami Zayn.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say like moving away. So like the men's Royal, um, gosh, it was great. I have no complaints until Jey Uso. Uh, but I also want to say that do you feel sometimes like the PLEs could do better with a few more matches? Do you think like quality over quantity is what WWE is going for? Because I feel like in the Vince era, we used to hit like sometimes 7 matches a pay-per-view.
Yeah, and I think it's been pretty steadily 5, and this one was 4 because of the 2 hour and a half long matches.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, so they got to toe a line because 7 7 seemed fine, but AEW has a habit of getting like 8 9 in there, and it's just like match match
sure.
match match match, and they're all like exciting. So like people like end up actually kind of viewer fatigued at the end, like when
Oh
the main event
yeah.
is happening. Like,
I
and
mean, I've been with you, and you've been enough to get the pay-per-views. You pay for them individually. And yeah, they're every match is sometimes a banger. And by like the third match, you're like, okay, let me get some food, let me get a drink in me.
yeah,
Get ready for this next banger.
exactly. So I think, yeah, maybe if they started doing like 6 or 7 on normal PLEs, that's probably a good balance. But yeah, I get worried they get in that territory of fatiguing the audience by the time it's over.
Do you miss exposure to all levels of the card in a PLE?
Do you mean like, so there'd be like maybe a US title match and then a world
Sure.
title and then maybe a tag title,
Correct.
or um yeah, I do kind of. It's just, yeah, it's weird because I do want some of that stuff to be there for the regular television, just to keep it,
Yeah.
like, oh, this royal, or not this royal, um, this U.S. title match is the most important thing that's happening, right? Like,
Hmm.
I like
Hmm.
that for it. So when you put them on a PLE, it does kind of take away because it is less than, um optically. But
Yeah.
I don't know, like, I feel like they could do more mid-card feuds that people care about. Like, um they didn't, like, we talked for a few episodes about how much we liked Andrade versus Mello's thing going on, and
Yeah. The
they
series
never
was great.
they never made it to a PLE until LA Knight and the title were involved. But like those kind of feuds, well, they don't really have one right now that I would say I'm that invested in to see on a PLE, is part of the problem too. Um, but yeah,
And
I
that
don't.
felt like they were borrowing from AEW with that series.
In a way, yeah, because AEW, like, they don't really officially do that, but they do that. Like, they throw the
They
same
do,
5 people in
yeah.
a match, or same 2 people in 5 matches, and yeah,
Right. They
um,
might not cut the promos, but you're getting a series.
yeah, right, exactly. But yeah, I don't know. Do you wish there was more like mid card stuff on these, or if there was like
Yeah,
a,
yeah, sometimes. Yeah, the reason I brought it up is because like going over like older pay-per-views and older structure formats under Vince, sometimes I feel like there was more effort into developing narratives across the board. Now, I'm not going to get like I'm not going to dial in on the quality of those narratives, but I'm saying if HHH and creative company, if they're good at building storylines, why not? I get they're going for quality over quantity here, but why not accelerate and elevate the lower card? Because they have so much talent, and you and I both say, like, what are you going to do with SmackDown for 3 hours? Oh, well, maybe you could develop your lower card narratives, and maybe they could be part of your PLE, and maybe we can have more than 5 matches. Would that be the end of the world? No. Um, so sometimes I feel like they cycle through the mid and low card talent as if they are disposable, as if their narratives don't matter, and all they're doing is pivoting and entertaining and filling the air with something. That's not to say the matches they execute are bad, but it's like, where's the follow up? Where am I as a fan going to have interest into what happens to these lower cards? I don't. I really don't. I mean, they're doing a better job with the women's division with continuity, but overall, the mid card has lacked a lot of continuity. And it really turned me off when LA Knight lost his championship belt. Um, I thought that was done in a poor fashion. To me, it threw away his momentum. So I don't want to get off on a tangent about the mid card, but yeah, I do feel like PLEs could really use some lower card narratives and elevate the talent that they are so called developing. You don't need to go and create another brand for developmental. If you're going to diversify, diversify. But let's not forget about all the talent you have on your 3 hour blocks, right?
Yeah, exactly. And with that, it's just too bad that um like what was I gonna say? Well, not too bad. Never mind. It just feels like too like they could develop more stars to sell merch and stuff just if they gave them exposure. Like,
Yeah.
of course, like Andrade, for example, like his merch sales probably aren't good, and it's because nobody knows what his merch is. Like,
Sure.
and they it feels like they use merch and some of these things as a metric on where they want to take things. And if you don't give a starting point for that, like of course they're not going to be there. And yeah, it stinks cuz they ended up letting some people go not too long ago too, and these are people that have been with the company for many years in some cases, and
Yeah,
like
many years.
you
Very
couldn't
proven.
you couldn't find a use for them on a third hour of SmackDown that wasn't there before. Like it, I don't know.
Yep.
It's all weird. Um, okay. Should we? So, were we in the actual Rumble? Did we get to that? We got off on a
Yeah,
tangent
so
there.
we can get in there. And this is actually a good pivot because we're talking about what to do with. Let me tell you, John, I had little to no exposure to Penta. So when he hit the main roster, I was thrilled, and I still am thrilled. I rarely skip his matches. He's a great worker, and I feel like as a mid card talent, he has a top card draw.
Yeah.
He doesn't need others to put him over. He will put himself over because he knows how to work the crowd. Um, God, the guy has charisma. The guy has the move set. The guy has this immediate gravitas, this attraction that pulls you in, and that Mexican destroyer when he hits it. Every time I could see it 30 times and I go, oh Jesus.
Yeah.
Like it always makes me go like, oh man, is that guy okay? That was just too much. It's like whiplash from a head-on collision or some shit.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
it's it's really incredible. So for them to spotlight in the Rumble Penta right away, phenomenal decision. I loved it. I love that. I love what they're doing with Penta, and I hope they don't let his momentum go. Um, and I loved everything. I loved all the spots in the men. So I'm gonna come out right away and say it. I gave the men's best grade because it was just fantastic. I gave it a straight up A. Um, and I thought to myself we were gonna see Cena win it, and there was going to be complications, but then they had Uso win. But before we get to that discussion, I wanted to ask you about like your favorite little spots throughout the match because I said earlier, Joe and Roman Reigns face to face, and Roman Reigns being like, "Who is this guy? Who the hell is this guy?" And you know what was so poetic about it, John? All the fans knew who Joe actually
Oh
is,
yeah.
and to have that creatively come out was the poetry. That was the poetry in the moment. The fact that this guy Joe is over with the crowd and Roman Reigns being this insulated top of the card draw in WWE, he has no idea who Joe is. Fully so. Why would he be on his radar? But Joe is on everybody's radar, you know? So that was a highlight for me. Penta and Joe shined. And to have CM Punk, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns at one time in the same ring. Even I forget which commentator said it. And dialing back to your comment about Wade Barrett being there, they did Graves dirty. That's a different topic for discussion. Um, but they said, I don't think we've ever seen so many future Hall of Famers come out at the same time and be in the squared circle competing for the Royal Rumble. So I'll leave it at there. Leave it at that. What, with that in mind, what really stood out to you?
Yeah, I was gonna bring up Penta entering at 2 against Ray because like it's just cool seeing those guys. Like they've known each other. Like Ray's been other places. You know, like there used to be a thing called Lucha Underground that was on Netflix, and I encourage people to like look up clips from that because there's some stuff on there that you wouldn't believe what you're seeing. Like so, just
Oh,
this is an obscure thing, but Penta in Lucha Underground had a mixed gender match with both Io Sky. I don't know what she was called then. But then he had a separate match with Reclusa, who is Chelsea Green. Um, and in both of these things, you just wouldn't believe it was like legal because you're just like the dynamic of like the male and
sure.
female, and like there's a spot you'll see Penta like throw Io Sky like into like 4 layers of folding chairs essentially, and you see him like fall down, and you're just like,
Yeah.
can't do that
You're
to
like, why?
can't
How?
do that to Io. But um, yeah, so there's a lot of stuff on there. There's some Ricochet stuff. But anyways, I forget why I was talking about Lucha Underground. Oh,
Well,
Penta.
just the fact that they had Penta and Ray come out, and you knew from the get, oh hell yeah, new face of Lucha against the Legend of Lucha right away in the, and I was like, we're in for,
Yeah, it was awesome, and of course he has zero fear.
yeah, zero fair, yep,
Um,
yep,
and I love his masks. Like he always had really cool ones in AEW too.
yeah,
What is a crime almost is so this man like his brother. There's like a whole thing with his brother right now. Like he is kind of stuck in purgatory almost. It seems like because
oh
essentially
wow,
what happened is uh, he's been injured and stuff, and Penta and his brother Ray Phoenix is his name. Their contracts were going to run out at the same time, but Tony Khan tacked on extra time at the end due to the injury. Like there was something in the clause where like, okay, you're out 6 months. Now we're going to tack on an extra 6 months to when the contract ends.
sure,
So they did that to him, and they're not using him at all. Like this was just
mm-hmm.
strictly to not let him move to WWE, seemingly.
It was dirty,
Um, and so, anyways, what I was gonna get to is they were multiple time over tag team champions in AEW. Um, I don't remember if Penta won a mid card singles title, but Ray Phoenix had won their international championship. Um, and all this is for me to say, I didn't know Penta could speak English, and this
oh
is
sure,
a
okay,
5 year venture in AEW where this guy's been multiple time champions and you never heard him talk.
that's funny,
Like, and that's not even like it's not like a oh he's from Mexico thing. He's never had a microphone in his face. Actually,
right?
it's
And
crazy.
he's a natural.
Yeah.
He's a natural. I mean, and he even has that Scott Hall walk where he
Oh
comes
yeah.
out. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. Damian Priest used to do it early on with the Judgment Day, but Penta does it better.
Yeah.
Um, oh God. So yeah, Penta's elevated in my top 5, top 10. He's there,
Mm,
man. It's fun to watch. Um, so yeah, to have the Rumble start off that way, I knew we were in for a treat, like I said, and then it didn't lose momentum. This is one of the first Rumbles where I never felt like there was weird filler. They
yeah.
kept snowballing into these meta narratives. So that was one thing I was going to say about the women's that they achieved, that they always achieve with the men's. Meta narrative within the Rumble. Okay, and what I mean by that, very simple. You are slowly developing a narrative for the weekly shows through eliminations and feuds in the Rumble. And they did that very well for the first time in the Women's Rumble. They typically just have it be a 30 girl showdown and they go, yeah, just have them whip each other out because who cares? But
Yeah.
they actually had some feuds develop mid Rumble in both the men's and women's. However, the men's was done so well that I felt like this was the best Rumble storytelling I have seen in my, oh God, how long have I 18, 20 years of watching professional wrestling?
Yeah. No, I completely am there with you. It was fantastic. And one thing I forgot to mention with the women's match that this match did a lot better of was just like the amount of people in the match. Like there was a couple times during the women's match where I'm like, there's 12 people in here. Like it just it got to be a lot, but I didn't feel like it was too crowded in the men's at all, and the pace was good. I suppose the only like interruption that like put a little something on it that I didn't like was just the whole I show speed spot.
Oh,
Um
give that boy some milk. Oh my God. He got broken half. When he got hit with that spear, John, I legitimately turned to my wife and said, that boy has a concussion. Like that boy got folded in half and he ain't prepared for that. He sits like you and I, where he's behind a computer being like, "Meow, meow, meow, meow." No, he ain't ready to get hit by like a former football, you
no.
know.
No. So, I mean that part was pretty funny, but like it was just kind of cringe because like they just have like Akira Tozawa looking like he's gonna enter, and then
Sure.
Carmelo Hayes just mad that he got eliminated, just like takes it out on Tozawa. Poor guy.
And Stephanie's back there. She's like, hey, but so that also reminds me, typically with the filler, we get a lot of Dink the Clown, Hacksaw Jim. You get a lot of these legends filler that come out as gimmick wrestlers to be thrown over in like what, 2, 3, 5 minutes, if that.
Yeah,
I felt like for the first time, every single entry told a story
for
that
sure.
rolled into a weekly show. And that's what I'm getting at, man. That's where this might have been it was just so well executed that it gave me a little bit of goosebumps.
Yeah, I wish we could go back because where all this stuff is like spinning off, it's like hasn't been great. But
Yeah. And I wanted to touch on that with the road to WrestleMania. So, okay, here we are. We get to the end, and everybody knows about John Cena's farewell tour. He's chasing the Ric Flair. Okay, sure. But man, did you think that Jey Uso was going to throw him over the top? Did you think Jey Uso was going to be the Rumble winner?
no, I didn't. I thought he was going to be one of the last four in the ring. But yeah, no, I didn't expect him to win. Um,
Is he ready? Do you think he's ready?
he, it's I don't know how to answer that exactly because I just don't think if he's not ready now, he's never ready. You know what I mean? Like this is
Sure.
what he
Yeah.
is. So
Yep.
if we agree that he's like peaked and that means that you're ready, then sure, you've reached your potential. Um,
Sure.
but yeah, no, I just there's so many more deserving talents, I feel like. Maybe not in the analytics of your selling shirts and how many
Yeah.
decibels the sound meter reads the crowd at when Yeet is happening or however
Sure.
many encores of Yeet. Um,
Oh Jesus.
I don't like that they're doing the encore thing because like
No.
I think Jay's almost sick of it, to be honest. Like there was one he did like an encore and he looked like exhausted from it because he's just doing this for like 10 minutes. Like that's a
When I
workout.
get it, right? It's like, okay, dark show, house show, let's yeet. Let's yeet our faces off because it's a live performance. It's something that gets the crowd going. But from a television perspective, I'm with you, man. I'm totally like you remember Reigns coming down? This is worse because it's like 10, 11 minutes of trap music and Jay doing this with the crowd. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not there. I don't care how excited Pat McAfee is. I'm not into this. And if you know me, the last 3, 4 shows I've been telling you, if they don't get this ball rolling. This Yeet train is going to leave the station and they won't be able to capitalize on it. And I hate it, but I feel like they are doing exactly that. They capitalized on it because, like you just said, if this is the peak, what do you do with Jay? What do you do? You can't just let this business opportunity fall through your fingers. So they looked at it, right? They probably looked at the merch, they looked at the fan integration, they looked at the WWE experience, and they said, "This guy's hot. Let's put the Rumble. Let's give him the Rumble." And I just don't know what it does to the John Cena farewell tour. Now we're in the Elimination Chamber, and everything after the Rumble. And you and I have discussed this via text. We've said multiple times there's something off with WWE's delivery. There's something off with their engagement with storylines post Rumble. What's going on? So, what was your grade for the Rumble before we get into?
Yeah, so I would have been there with you at an A if it wasn't for Jay winning. So it brought me
Sure,
to an A minus. Um,
sure.
there was something I was going to bring up, but I forgot. Oh, just not to keep talking about Penta, but this was important at the very beginning. There was a spot where Ray threw him over, and probably both his feet touched, but they were talking it up like only one did. Um,
Okay.
that was really interesting. Um, let's see. There was one other thing. Oh, like it was funny when Dominic Mysterio entered, just because there was like all this great pace and stuff, and the crowd was super into it, and then he just comes out and just deflates it, like it just
It
ruined the
does.
entire vibe.
Sucks the air out, but they love it. That heel, you can't. That's something what they have with Dom. You just let it play out.
Yeah. Um, and then there was some supposed like real life heat with Drew McIntyre and LA Knight after the Rumble.
Sure, sure,
Um,
yeah, because you had the Yeet, yeah, exchange, and the crowd. Okay, so one thing I noticed, who had the biggest pop? It was between LA Knight and Jey Uso. Jey Uso had the biggest pop at the Rumble. So again, looking as a business opportunity makes sense. But I could see why LA Knight would do a shoot on that momentum. And for McIntyre to get upset about that shoot, if it was a shoot and this isn't some type of work that McIntyre's playing off as a heel, um, I wouldn't get mad at LA Knight. And to be honest, I felt like it was a perfectly timed exchange, and I thought it was entertaining.
yeah, I think I don't know. I think what ultimately frustrated him was supposedly something was supposed to happen to better set up like a potential Drew versus Damian Priest match, and
Oh,
it just wasn't. It was very unceremonious how he got eliminated by Priest, and maybe he was just upset that that was his direction anyway. Was just having some random feud with Priest.
sure.
So just compile those things, and then LA Knight does that, I guess. I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say about the Rumble.
Yeah, so the road to WrestleMania, both you and I think there's something off with WWE's narrative. And so been kind of thinking about it and thinking how I'm going to deliver a comprehensive overview about my frustration with the current state of the weekly programs. And I could sum it up in a threefold manner. It would be too many changes over the last 6 months, from commentary exchanges to changing 2 hours to 3 hours to the big Netflix launch, which was fine, but the Netflix launch itself was missing Gunther, the face of Raw. That didn't sit well with me. And then secondary, so my first complaint, like I just stated, would be too many changes. My second complaint would be corporate interests and too many inputs in Triple H's ear to execute long form storytelling. I feel like post Rumble and where we're at now, we are. getting to the point where they are making decisions for shareholders, which I knew was part of the Netflix launch, but I feel like it's more apparent, especially with Jey Uso winning the Rumble, Charlotte Flair winning the Rumble, um, and now with The Rock showing up and doing whatever the hell he pleases to plug items. And even if he's personifying this new split personality, quasi Vince McMahon, and I'm the corporate final boss, and you're going to do as I say, and you'll hate me, but you'll love me. Blah, blah, blah. So that's my second grievance. They are catering to too many corporate interests. And then my third grievance would be the quality of the promos. They're getting into this weird formula where backstage they have somebody attack somebody, and then you have Nick Aldis or Adam Pearce be like, "Hey, you're out of control. You know what? We're gonna have you fight next week." And that happens once a week with somebody.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a problem to me as a viewer, a longtime viewer. Um, and they also seem to be doing this, and it was cool at first. I really loved watching the wrestlers go from backstage, followed with the cameras, all the way through past production, out the entrance, into the fans, into the ring, and you were like, whoa, this one shot cinematography is beautiful. But now they're having them like talk into the camera and be like, hey, I'm gonna take him out, and you know I'm gonna, because I'm the toughest guy around. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so generic. Why are they doing? And the only thing I could put my finger on for these three grievances to become a staple in the current product is they are catering to all the new eyes on the product. And they no longer have to cater to the long term fans. And the demographic of the marks is slowly being dominated by new eyes. So they can use generic formulas for face and heel interaction that long term viewers reject because we've seen all these formulas through and through over the decade.
And this might be uh, getting a little too what's the word? Too not deliberate, but I can't think of the word right now. But
Well, just get angry, John.
yeah,
This is bullshit.
I'm getting pissed. No, if you if you go back to like the definition of a mark, like
Sure.
at the end of the day, I think these are the marks now because they're the people, they're the target, right? So these new fans are the marks aren't the like longtime fans anymore. Like they feel like they
No,
got that in the bag. Like we got these people, so we're trying to get these people now. So to me, those are the new marks. But
totally.
um, yeah, it sucks because yeah, as like people that are more longtime viewers of the product, like you hope that they would show loyalty to you, which is, you know, continuing like just good story and keeping people interested, and it's not about these external factors. And um
Yep.
so yeah, it's difficult, but I understand how like they could see that as impeding growth if they're just trying to maintain who they have. Um, I don't know. It's weird territory.
It is. But I feel like The Rock is the quintessential example of that. He comes in, he plugs things where the normal long term audience would be dissatisfied with all the commercialization, the plugging. Like, The Rock isn't supposed to be there to plug The Rock. You told me over a text, he's diluting kayfabe itself. Like, he's, um, and so when he plugs, you and people eat it up. I hear people doing Moana shouts in the crowd,
Yeah.
and I'm like, wow, they love this integration of all these pop cultural aspects. And I understand that wrestling is best when they cater to what's going on in the culture, but that doesn't mean that they have to actually mirror these products and mirror these trends. Typically, the best type of wrestling narrative repackages cultural trends into a wrestling narrative where The Rock is actually going to wrestle, where The Rock is actually The Rock. He's not a commercial Hollywood promo. He's not plugging tequila. He's not telling you how many followers he has on his social media.
Mm,
Like, I don't like that angle. I really don't as a wrestling fan because I'm not interested in the celebrity of Rock.
right. And it's almost like another just thing they're going off of data. If it's merch sales, it's followers. Like I don't get it. Yeah, I just wish like what's confusing too is like you were just saying they had the Moana chance and stuff, and then like two sentences later he's telling somebody to knock the syphilis off their mouth, and it's like
Yeah,
it's so confusing,
right,
especially if you're 9 years old and you like Moana and you like these superhero like figures that is the professional wrestler, and then they're talking about like
right.
you're a whore, this is the meth capital.
STDs.
Yeah, just so I don't get it. But we might as well just get into the Rock and Cody stuff because it's fresh
Sure.
and it's gonna drive a lot of where we're going. Um,
Yep. And this
so
is going into the elimination chamber anyway. So yeah, let's just deep dive that and then kind of build off of what's going to happen at elimination chamber.
definitely, yeah. And so as far as I know, Cody's only involvement in the elimination chamber is going to be answering a question of Dwayne's, which we'll talk about right now.
Could
So
just text them.
yeah, you could text him, but no, Dwayne's got to fly to Toronto, and um, yeah. But anyways, they had this whole segment of Cody or Rock coming out being corporate Rock, like you're describing, and then, well, I guess to set all this up on SmackDown, the show opened with like Nick Aldis and Cody acknowledging that The Rock was in the building, and Aldis told him that he was no longer part of the main event, and he's like, "Well, why not?" And he's like, just said it was over his head, and then it got to the point where you figure out over his head means The Rock said yank him from the match.
Right.
Um, so that's how they set it up, and then it was probably what like top of the third hour that you see Rock and Cody actually in the ring, I think.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Um,
So The Rock comes out, has trash music, by the way.
yeah, they took his like final boss new theme and then they threw in like a hey, we're a New Orleans thing for 10 seconds in the middle of it. Um,
Yeah.
but
And they announce they announced 2026 WrestleMania before 2025 WrestleMania has concluded on the road to WrestleMania. And I'm just like, oh, facepalm. And then the next thing I know, he's, like I said, plugging his tequila. He's like sweating. He's not even wrestling, and he's like a little sweaty from just cutting the promo. He's singing a little, and then he is introducing Cody like this weird cuck. Like he's just like, hey, just come down here, Cody. Come and do my bidding, Cody. And Cody comes down like, hey, I'm the face of the company. Hey there. And you would think like this guy bloodied you before the last WrestleMania. And nope, man, this is everything's been smoothed over. You guys
yeah,
this Cody, but you know, Kevin Owens is cross. But The Rock is your buddy. This is the shit that makes me lose my cool when we talk about the old marks versus the new marks. The old marks would not stand for this. The new marks will eat this up.
right.
And it tells you a lot about who they're targeting for storytelling. And I don't like that. I like it, man. And I joked with you to culminate with The Rock's appearance. He goes through all these iterations of corporate talk and blah 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 blah, and then finally he asks Cody to be his lover, and Cody's like, I don't know if I want to be your lover. Okay, so he said, I need your soul. And so we're bringing back, we are revisiting the Vince era corporate champion. Let's face it, they're just bringing that back. This isn't original.
Yeah. So a couple things to like fill in a little bit of context there. The getting to the point of I want your soul. It was Rock discussing with Cody like how what he wants is beyond the championship, and he was the way he was talking about it, like you know, it was creepy mentor. That's where like kind of
A
you
little
got
weird.
you got lover out of it, and yeah, and I through text said abuser, but like
Yeah,
it's
that's more accurate.
because yeah, it just seems like you said he got bloodied, and then now he's like, yeah, hey, it's me, Cody, and like they had to go out of their way to talk about like, yeah, we've been actually pretty good friends the last year, and we got this picture of Mama Rhodes and Mama Rock, and um yeah, so it's very weird, and it is unoriginal, like you're saying, but a couple things that I wanted to point out. The Rock did not come out with the People's Championship, right? Like he just came out
Good
no
point.
no belt. Um, Part of their interaction, he basically calls Cody the People's Champion without saying it. Like he's like, "You're their champion," and just referring to the crowd, and everyone cheers for him. And he's like, "They love you," and like, um, so I don't know. Like, yes, this is it's cringe, and there's like just it's creepy how Rock is talking to him, and just how Cody seemed like kind of like battered almost. um but
Right.
I wonder if like the People's Champion is gonna like mean something, right? Like
It could.
because if he's calling Cody the People's Champion without calling him it, then clearly he's not the People's Champion anymore. Or at least that's how I would
Right.
interpret it. Um,
And if he sells his soul, does Cody get the Promo Bull belt?
right. Or yeah. Yeah, does he get that, or does he get everything else that Rock was saying? Like all the movie roles you could ever want, and put your face on
Right.
this candy bar. I made
He
that one
gets
up,
to go
but
to Epstein Island.
yeah, he gets you you get your exclusive name on the logs. No. But
John, the one thing I saw for comments on YouTube, there were some funny ones. They're like, "So if these two tag team, are they now Rocky Roads?"
that SmackDown was just full of puns the other day. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Um so I don't know if there's gonna be like a I'm the director of the board's champion, and there's gonna be a people's champion. Um and if they're more symbolic, like the Ulafala, like it's not like a
sure.
real championship, even though its form factor is. But so I could see that happening. Um, where I wanted to bring it in a little bit of a not a tangent, but like I have a prediction tying things together, and I'm not good at this because I did this with the Gunther Goldberg thing that never happened, right? Like I tried to
Yeah, but
figure
I
out how
mean,
to make it make sense. Um, so
you can only extrapolate, but I'd love to hear it.
yeah, so what I think is going to happen here, jumping ahead a little bit, I think that John Cena will win the Elimination Chamber, um,
Mm.
and that Punk is going to feel like he got screwed out of it somehow. Like if it's like what I kind of think could happen is like Logan Paul gets eliminated, and they do the thing where like they're escorting him out, but then he like turns back in and maybe just like beats the shit out of Punk or something. Um, so Punk feels screwed over, and he didn't win the chamber. And I think it was on the podcast. It might have just been me and you talking, but originally when Punk was joining Team Roman for War Games, um, and then they came out with this like, well, Paul Heyman owes me a favor now thing. Um,
Favor.
Favor. At the time, I was kind of thinking like maybe there's some like weird thing where he needs a connection to The Rock for some reason, or like
Sure.
it was just like a random shot in the dark. But when I'm thinking about it now, so let's say, Cody at Elimination Chamber tells The Rock no, essentially, and is like, "No, I'm their champion, and I'll never sell my soul to blah 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 and whatever." Um, who might sell their soul to get to where they need to go? And to me, that person could be Punk, because this is somebody who wants a Mania main event. He didn't win the
Mm.
Rumble. He didn't win the Chamber. Maybe his favor is I'm contacting the final boss to get me inserted into this match.
Triple threat.
Yeah,
Oof. Yeah, that'd be really interesting because then you have the angle of, hey, Cena's farewell tour, and hey, Cena could tie or beat Ric Flair, um, the record that is, and you also have Cody. Kind of anything could happen at that point. So I love that idea. And well, you were kind of walking me through that. I thought you were gonna say Rhodes accepts the heel turn,
okay,
aligns with The Rock. Um, John Cena wins, but then the favor is Punk going to take out the corporate CEO and finally becoming the cult of personality champion of the people he really is throughout all the years, and taking the belt off of Cody as the corporate champ. I think either scenario is pro Punk.
right.
So it sounds like we both think Punk is going to somehow make it to the dance.
Yeah, I really do. And yeah, I just, to me, how do you get him there with like, like, to me it doesn't make sense him just winning the Chamber. Like, I feel like there's got to be chicanery for him to get to Mania at this point. And
Yeah,
like, part of, I didn't say it when I was describing it, but the way you just described it, where like Punk is the cult of personality and he's beating out the corporate champ, which would be Cody. Um, yeah, I didn't explain this, but my thought was obviously opposite of that. Whereas like,
sure.
how how like could you turn Punk into the biggest heel as you make him the corporate guy? You know what I mean?
That'd be great too. Yeah. Either
Like,
way, I feel like Punk is very malleable.
yeah, definitely. And I mean, I guess at the end of the day, he's a tweener right now, and he'd probably be a tweener even if he was a heel, if that makes any
Yeah,
sense.
his legacy is with the people, right?
Yeah,
The fact that he had the pipe bomb promo will forever cement him as a wrestler of the people.
right.
Because I mean, to shoot at that level at Vince,
Yeah, get away with it.
um, yeah, get away with it essentially, and then make a return post Vince. That's, oh my god, what redemption. So the one thing I will say is, when are they going to let go of Logan Paul? When is his when is his contract up? I'm glad he actually wrestled a weekly show, John, but I what I don't see a future for him outside of promotional. Hey, Prime is great, yum, drink, and his incredible spots here and there. I don't see a real future for him. Like, what do you do? Because he obviously wants to be top of the card. His contract is involved with the top of the card, but he isn't. He is not a viable long stay for top of the card. I don't see them being like, yeah, let's put everything and ride it with Logan Paul. It just doesn't make sense to me, and I don't feel like the industry would benefit from a Paul being, having Logan Paul be the face of the company. He's too inconsistent, too many things going on to have everything weight of.
Yeah, and it seems like the best example of that working kind of in a way is The Miz, just because he came from like reality TV and stuff, but he didn't have
Sure.
multiple brands, or the internet wasn't what it was today, So
Right.
um but yeah, I don't see Logan Paul ending up being like the Miz though, where he's just like, in the mid card for a decade and like just solid promos, but he's there, right? Like Logan wouldn't be showing up for that. Um,
And thinking about this as you speak, I think maybe Logan Paul represents the beginning of the mark, the era of the new mark. The new mark is cross brand. The new mark is diversification and exposure to all entertainment platforms. The new mark is not a traditional house show goer. The new mark could care less about the legacy of professional wrestling. The
yeah,
new mark only cares about the publicity and celebrity of the superstar.
yeah, yeah, and obviously a lot of that comes from pop culture, but it's been a thing in like professional sports too, just because like um, the Super Bowl is a whole fucking thing. But
Yeah,
they
Travis and Swift.
yeah, Travis and Swift, and then they had Kendrick Lamar do the halftime show, and had Serena Williams dancing the crip walk during a song because she dated Drake one time, or you know,
Woo!
it's a whole thing. But what I was actually trying to get at here was like athletes are moving teams a lot more and stuff, and there's been less allegiance to the teams and more allegiance to the individual player. Like, I want this
Oh,
guy's
sure.
jersey, like kind of thing. It's not like I want a Minnesota Vikings jersey. It's I want a Justin Jefferson jersey, and then if Justin Jefferson gets traded, then wherever he goes, I want that. It's not the Vikings. And
Right, right.
so I kind of feel like that's just how like just culture is now. It's just like gravitate towards a figure versus a collaborative, I guess.
That makes sense. So like there's more commodification of personality and individual branding than allegiance to a product as a whole or a company.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
So
That makes sense. And that makes sense why people can do so many crossovers, right? Because they are capitalizing on their own personality, their own brand. And maybe that's why somebody like LA Knight, who gets over organically, is so interesting because he's doing exactly that, right? Like in late 2023, he started to realize, well, screw my booking. I'm going to get over with my own person. And so like he could probably see he was reading the tea leaves because that's where professional wrestling's going anyway.
yeah,
Where the real draw is the personality, not the car.
right. And I don't know if it ever hit this point like during the 80s or the Attitude Era or whatever, but I don't like recall ever hearing people like saying, I'm going to turn this on to watch Hulk Hogan, or I'm going to turn this on to watch John Cena. It was, I'm turning on wrestling to watch wrestling. You know what I mean? Um,
Right, right. SmackDown's on.
but now it could be like, because of the easy accessibility of it now, almost instantaneously, and be like, oh, did you see Logan Paul, blah, blah, blah? And then you can just get it, and you're like, oh, and then it's gone. And
Clips, right? We want to go viral.
yeah, and yeah. So I agree with what that tangent stemmed from, which was just Logan Paul ushering
That's
that
some
in, kind
deep
of.
cultural analysis, John. I think that is why CCW is at the forefront
We're
of pro
evolving.
wrestling analysis.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
starting a
um,
developmental brand. Um, uh,
yeah.
oh,
More
so
about the mental, though.
we let's see. So we kind of I don't know. Was there anything else like before just like going to like what the chamber matches are that you think would be good to touch
Uh,
on here?
uh, I guess. Well, okay. So this is the last stop before WrestleMania, correct?
Yeah, less PLE.
And
Yeah.
Do you feel like this elimination chamber is less filler and more like a big deal? Because I feel like there's a lot riding on this one, with The Rock being like, "Are you gonna be a heel, Cody?" And we have a real championship match about to be decided. We have John Cena returning with. Okay, so one of my frustrations with John Cena before we touch on Elimination Chamber is if you're doing a farewell tour, show up at the weekly shows,
Yeah.
please? Question mark. Um, I saw somebody on SmackDown have a sign, and it said "Please show up" or something along those lines, and it's this like terrible photo of John being like, and I'm like, yeah, please show up, dude. This is your farewell tour. Don't be a Logan Paul. Don't be a Roman Reigns. This is the last time people are going to remember this as your legacy. Okay, this is your.
Yeah, and he said like he was gonna do 40 something dates, and there's 52 weeks in a year, so I mean,
Yeah, where is he?
yeah, I don't know if he's gonna have like like a string of a month where he's on SmackDown and Raw, and he's like, "See, 40 appearances."
If
But
if they put the title on him,
yeah, yeah, um,
ugh.
yeah. Uh, so yeah, I said I think Cena's gonna win the Chamber. The the other competitors, I guess we should even get to that. John Cena's in there, Drew McIntyre, Logan Paul, Damian Priest, and Seth Rollins. I I agree that it seems like these matches are very important, but there was actually one elimination chamber. I think it was maybe 2017. Um, Basically, the Royal Rumble, there was this big AJ Styles and Cena match. Like AJ was pretty new to the company, but he already had the world title at this point, and Cena ends up
Okay.
winning and beating him, and it was a fantastic match. Um, but anyways, so then after the Rumble, there was the Elimination Chamber, and they actually had so Cena beat AJ and he was the champion. They had Cena put it on the line in the chamber, um, which I don't know historically how many times they've done that. Maybe it's more than I think. Um, but anyways, so they had Cena put it on the line in there, and this ultimately became Bray Wyatt's first title run. Like they took the Cena title
Mm,
off of Cena within the matter of a month, and they also had Cena like be the second person eliminated from the match. Um,
mm.
so not to say that this year's chamber isn't important, but like I don't know. I've just seen more relevant stuff occur. I guess is what I was. That was my point.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like to me you're saying that there was in the past more doubt into who would actually come out, where this just feels like an important match because we're going to get who faces Cody Rhodes.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I will say, my wife has said, if Logan Paul ever becomes the face of the company, I will probably stop watching WWE and shift to AEW for the time that he's a champion, just because I'll be so upset
Okay.
that it would come to that. I don't think Triple H is stupid enough to do it,
Yeah.
but I, he is in the Elimination Chamber. But no, John Cena most likely. I do think that our analysis on Punk pulling a favor to get into WrestleMania is very valid. Um,
Yeah. Which side of the
Gunther
fence?
and yeah, and Gunther with Jey Uso. I'm gonna throw it out there. If Jey Uso wins, man, I don't know what they're gonna do with Gunther. I I always think like, what does Gunther look like without being a dominant champion? He'll have to reinvent his.
Yeah. It's too bad because yeah, I've told you and or we've talked about it in text plenty, but like pretty much every Gunther title match has like ended in some sort of like it wasn't clean, any of them, whether it
Yeah,
was Finn
lately.
Balor or Kaiser or whatever. Like somebody has to help him, and it's like Nobody had to help him for 666 days of being IC champion. Um,
Dominant IC champion.
yeah, the most dominant. Like, actually,
Yeah.
statistically, if you're gonna fucking make all your decisions off of statistics, there's this statistic for you. Um, so yeah, it just sucks. And like, I forget if I said this to you or somebody else, but the J thing wouldn't bother me so much if it wasn't like just clearly telegraphed that he's gonna face Gunther and he's gonna overcome the anti sports entertainment guy. Um,
Yep.
and it's just it sucks. Like it if they would have had a better, I don't know, like even let's just say two of those matches weren't like ended in some sort of interference or something. Like I'd feel a little bit better about Gunther's title reign right now. But yeah, it sucks, and I don't know. Like you're the biggest Gunther fan of people that I talk
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, dude, okay, here's my perspective as a big Gunther fan. Okay, so I step back into the realm of W. This guy's actually wrestling. This guy's actually chopping people down. This guy is working out his problems on the mat and making people tap and putting them to sleep and slamming them to the ground. You don't see that very often in WWE. The entertainment aspect that has taken over, and that's fine. They're known for. You know, they changed it to the E from an F for a reason. Beyond the legality, there was a reason. Um, and with Gunther being the dominant, was great. We didn't need enough to, Giovanni tag team champions and then have Gunther being like, yes, this is European elegance. We didn't need that. But what on the flip side, we also didn't need complete divorce from Imperium. He got the World Heavyweight Championship, and you never. What happened to Ludwig Kaiser's allegiance? He's backstage cutting promos with Gunther. They stroll through the arena and be like, hey, look at this peasant. And yet in the ring, where's Ludwig Kaiser? He's not there typically. And so I don't know what happened to Imperium. They let go of Giovanni Vinci, and poor Giovanni Vinci, he got a concussion, I believe, shortly before his let go. He was out for a while because of his concussion during a tag team match. Then he was let go when they repackaged him as his NXT personality, which is garbage. And now we face a pitfall of terrible booking for Gunther. He's no longer a convincing, domineering champion. As a longtime fan of his move set, he can work with anyone. He can make anybody shine. He can put somebody over. He can bury them. He's very, very good wrestler. Once in a generation wrestler. And now they are playing it safe, and they are pivoting to put the crown on what you say is the face of the entertainment aspect of the industry, Jey Uso, and it doesn't sit well with me, and I'll tell you why. To me, it's like wholesome storytelling. When we moved away from that, we moved away from the cliches, and Paul Levesque elevated all these narratives. Form storytelling. You guys are in for a surprise, and we're gonna head to a more mature tone with Netflix. He hasn't delivered that, actually. We are regressing back into that. Let's just deliver them safe, heel, face interpretations. Let's deliver them black and white storylines. And this storyline, John, with Gunther and Jey Uso is as wholesome in Disneyland as it gets.
Yeah, I did
And
enjoy.
it pisses me off.
I I enjoyed Gunther coming out of the crowd this week. Um,
Oh, oh God, that was so good. So I was like telling Kedra, I'm like, I'm gonna turn this off. I'm gonna skip this or turn this off. I can't stand it. I kept looking at my phone. I do this for watch, but I was looking at my phone and I'm like, 5 minutes, he's still yeeting. 7 minutes, he's still yeeting. And then finally I look at her, I'm like, 11 minutes, he's still yeeting. Ugh, done with that shit. And I was like, thank God. I just can't stand it because Like I told you, I'm watching in television or through television. I'm not there. I'm not there to do this. It's a totally different experience, okay? And there's no reason why we can't cut to commercial and let him rock the house. We do not need to give the airtime for 12 minutes of eating,
Yeah,
okay?
that's
So,
exactly right. Like
congrats.
they really do got to do that better because how many times do we see like the beginning of somebody's entrance and then it goes to commercial and the other guy still hasn't been like announced
Yeah,
because they're in a commercial. Like yeah, yeet every commercial. Like just like I don't care if he comes out Jimmy Hart style like in between a match and is just like
sure.
we're in commercial.
Yeah.
But like
And you know what? He used to do that, John, when he was totally a mid card performer, fresh out of the bloodline. That's what they had him do, work the crowd during commercial. And now they're like, no, 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 go ahead, yeet. And let's have Pat McAfee ride you all the way to Yeet Town.
yeah. And just going back to your thing earlier about like the entrances from the back, the one cam thing, I just thought of Jim. I forget if it was last week or when it was, but he was doing that thing where he's just like, "Oh, I'm talking, I'm walking in the ring, oos, and blah blah blah," and then he's just like, "Mel don't miss," more like Mel, and it's like really, like,
And what happened to No Yeet?
well, that's what it was. It was like mellow, no, yeet.
Yeet. Yeah,
But
I know, but it's like he doesn't. Yeah, I don't know, man.
I kind
I
of,
don't know.
if we got to talk about this soon because there Raw's going to be here in April.
Oh, that's right.
We
Shit.
I what I want to do it wouldn't work out because it's too you have to line too many things up. But I just want to bring a sign that just says no and go by the yeet person. You know, like,
Sure. That's super funny. Yeah,
but
you just let me just yeah.
uh,
Yeah, no, and you know what? Let's face it, this is gonna seem random, but I'm just thinking about all the different things they're building for Mania. And I think we're gonna get Rollins versus Reigns,
yeah, yeah, I
and
think
it's
so.
gonna be some closure to the Shield.
Yeah, yep, I see that coming because of just how things went in the rumble between them or outside of the ring. Um, yeah. Oh, one thing I wanted to say. So what I what's kind of a weird balance to me. So like just uh, just give some context so you know where I'm coming from here. When you go and watch like the Vince McMahon documentary,
Yeah.
it's almost like a timepiece because like you see so many like culturally relevant things that happened during and how it was relevant to that specific era. And
Yeah.
WrestleMania is a spectacle, and I feel like they maybe are trying to force this like so you can go back in time someday and see where we were as a culture kind of thing with this Jey Uso
Yeah.
stuff. But like it feels forced, whereas like when you watch the Vince thing and you see, oh, there's Mr. T in the 80s and oh, here's whatever, like it felt so much more organic. And
Sure.
I don't know why that is because it clearly was forced back then because you know they only had 6 TV channels or you know whatever like they're putting the biggest face on the biggest platform. We can't really call WWE the biggest platform because it's on one of a billion channels now. Um, but yeah, it just feels like to me they're taking into account the legacy part and like this is a point in time we're at where I think the better legacy thing that's been consistent since wrestling began till now is look at that fucking match. That was awesome, you know? Like
Right. Right.
and Gunther does that and Andy brings the story to it. Like if it's just like where we are as a culture, like I don't know, why don't we just have like some Elon Musk thing happen, you know? Like
Right. Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, so this makes what? and how the crowd will just kind of take yeet and say yeet for no reason really, but they love chanting it, and it's like this very simple gesture they can give. And I said, you know what the difference is though, John, between what and yeet? And this kind of ties into what you're talking about with culture. Yeet is borrowed directly from another part of culture. It's
Mhm.
like meme culture, and it's actually kind of old, by the way. I feel like Jey Uso is going back like 8 years on internet culture to pull Yeet out of the bin.
Yeah.
Where what was like this weird stone cold thing, and it became a cultural trend where WWE now relies too heavily on what's going side of them, where they're kind of pulling external memes into their product instead of creating things that they externalize into culture.
Yeah. And
And that's, I think that's kind of like what's good, what is the dilemma for them as an entertainment industry.
right. And I think the closest thing to like it feeling organic was stuff like that was maybe the Daniel Bryan the Yes movement, right?
Oh yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
that's also like just simple, I guess. you know,
Sure.
like anyone can um
And we got close to that again with Cody being like, no, he's the main event. The fans were like, we're not having The Rock versus Reigns. I felt like that same energy that uh, catapulted Daniel Bryanson upwards was the same energy that put Rhodes and the spotlight back on Rhodes.
yeah, and
Or, yeah,
the J stuff like I feel like they wanted it to be organic and some of it is it's just like I don't know. I don't know where it became forced from organic. Like usually it's kind of the other way around. um
well, I'll tell you the issue, John. Jay is he's a copycat, okay? He has trap music for his music. It's like he's on a weird cultural leg. He's pulling the Rock's punches with the spit and everything. He's doing a splash we've seen 1,000 times. He's doing a spear that we've seen 1,000 times. He's pulling trap music from the 2000s, and he's saying yeet from like 8 years ago. That's the issue with Jey Uso and why he feels forced. There's nothing Jey Uso is doing that is actually original and authentic to Jey Uso.
Yeah, and when you put it that way, the delay part of it, it's like why then like if other people thought of it like that, then why would you think about the cultural aspect of Jay doing it now if it is like worn out material essentially. It's like recycled
Yeah.
polish a turd, whatever.
Yeah, I
Um
think it's because the new mark understands it. The new mark identifies with it because they've seen it. It's recognizable. They
it's all
go, "Oh, I get that."
yeah, it's almost like nostalgia for like
Yes,
cuz like I didn't think of nostalgia when I was like 16, so
sure,
it's nostalgia.
sure.
Yeet meme is nostalgia for them. But yeah, I don't know if I have too much to add to that conversation. Um, there's three other matches happening at the chamber. Did you have anything else you wanted to say with all that, or
No, I was gonna say though, when you were talking about, I don't know, being organic today's and juxtaposition, but that's a good pivot to the fact that hopefully in the near future we'll be having a guest on to talk about territory days and what they experience growing up watching the professional wrestlers of those days and how the performers now, do they compare? Is there crossover? Is there heritage? Or are they two distinct eras?
yeah? We'll see. I think this guest isn't too up on current stuff, other than being an avid listener. Um, so it's
Nice.
fragmented
A
since
rabid listener. Yeah.
it's fragmented since we've been fragmented. But
Oh no.
anyways,
We need to put Humpty Dumpty back together again. So the other matches though for elimination, we can go over those. Um I really did. I enjoy catching up here because I felt so bad. We had that lapse, and viewership, I'm sure, is like, what happened to CCW? Cricket, cricket, cricket.
Yeah.
But no, if we're ever absent, it's due to life things. It's not like some break in our broadcasting, because if we had it our way, we'd be doing more podcasts. It's
Oh yeah.
just we're busy. We have things going on, and we don't make money from this. This is pure passion project.
Exactly. So moving to the women's elimination chamber match, that's going to be Liv Morgan, who beat Io Sky via disqualification. I forget, was it? Oh, wasn't it Rhea that like got Io disqualified on accident?
Yeah, yeah. There was a little triangle between those three. Yeah,
Yeah. So Liv Morgan snuck her way in the match. Alexa Bliss beat Candice LeRae to qualify. Bianca beat somebody to get in. Bailey. Who did Bailey fight? It doesn't matter. Bailey's in there. Naomi and Roxanne Perez. I'm excited. I think that like I I don't have a problem with anyone in this match. Like maybe Liv Morgan, I'm just a little burnt out on from her, long reign of being a champion and it being super mediocre. Um,
agreed.
but as individual talents, I think it's going to be a fun match. I've seen, Alexa Bliss do like the twisted bliss off of one of the pods on the people, and like Bianca's a crazy athlete, Naomi's a crazy athlete. Um, Roxanne had a great showing in the Rumble, like we were talking about. It's cool seeing her.
Yeah,
I like they haven't called her a Raw superstar yet, but I feel like she's on the main roster now. Um,
feels like it.
I have no idea how this is gonna go, but I just feel like the only logical, like, who's gonna face Rhea angle to this, it makes me think that Bianca will win. Just because I think that
Yeah,
would be the best match. And if they did live again, that'd be absurd. But yeah, I
yeah.
don't
It'd
know.
be tiresome, completely tiresome. My question for you is, where's Becky Lynch?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, I've just been curious about that.
I
Um,
this isn't as relevant, or people don't care as much, but Carmella supposedly was gonna be coming back, and then something about how her recovery went after pregnancy, like
hmm,
something happened, and then I guess like her contract's like run out now, and they haven't
oh,
renewed it. Um,
okay.
so I don't know if that feeds into some Corey Graves stuff that we may or may not get to today, but
Yeah, that's right. I know they're married, right?
yeah, but
Okay.
but yeah,
Yeah.
so
No,
Bianca I
I
think will
do
win.
think you're. Yeah, I could see that the Naomi Bianca thing. That'll be kind of fun. Jade. So if Bianca wins, I feel like Jade obviously going to come back to face her, because I've been saying since the beginning that's a feud in the making. The only reason they were tag teaming is because they're too similar to have separate.
Right.
So yeah, I don't want. I mean,
Well, if it's not Bianca, who's winning? I guess.
yeah, yeah, I don't want Liv Morgan. I'm to be honest, I'm over the Judgment Day as a whole. Sometimes I feel like on the weekly programs it's a waste of airtime. Um, and it's unfortunate that JD McDonough got hurt the way he did recently, because he's always fun to watch in the ring. But the Judgment Day is just getting old. It's getting a little tired. Uh, Dominic Mysterio has had enough time to develop into a singles competitor. I think it's time to let him fly as a heel and not be so guarded.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And Carlito, man, when are you gonna spit more apples? You've done it like one, and now they're calling like Carly and stuff, and I don't know. It's some cringe stuff. So hopefully they dissolve that faction soon. Um, what did you want to touch on with the elimination chamber for closing? Like, do you have any other predictions for the other?
So I guess real quick,
with
they're
Sami Zayn.
yeah, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. They're having an unsanctioned match, so it's not recognized as official by the WWE.
That's
Um,
right.
because Sami Zayn, presumably, there'd be no way he'd be cleared to compete by then, because of the pile driver he took from Sammy or from Kevin. I joked with you in text that Cody's gonna start giving Randy the New Day Big E treatment because, like,
Yeah, yeah.
both Cody and Sammy have taken a pile driver from Kevin, like, since Randy did. Like, Randy was the first one, and Randy's still not back. And these two are just
Yeah.
going at Kevin. Um, I think that Sammy wins, and that it's like some sort of help from Randy. Like, this is how you get Randy
Okay.
back. And then I think Randy and Owens fight at Mania.
Okay, I could see that because I felt like the Sami Zayn KO angle was going to be a Mania match, and I was super taken back when they're like at the Elimination Chamber, and then I was like, oh yeah, Canada, meh, okay, um,
Yeah,
because
that
it
part.
could be WrestleMania caliber, but they didn't have enough time to do the long form tell for the two competitors. So I think you're right. I think we do see Orton involved somehow. It is a shame, John, we didn't get Orton versus Rhodes this season. Like
Yeah.
from last Mania to this next one, we never got that, and it's also a shame that we never got Karrion Cross versus McIntyre, and it's a
Mhm.
shame we never got CM Punk versus AJ Styles.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so yeah, well, did you have a prediction, like, who you think's winning? Or
Yes, I do. I do. I'm with you. I think Zayn will win. I'm not sure if that will be due to Orton interference. However, I do think there will be an Orton appearance, not at the Elimination Chamber, but the following weekly programs to set
sure.
up the final whatever match he has at Mania. I do think he'll appear. Because it would be uncanny for him to be out, especially with all things considered, given that Zayn and Rhodes recovered what in like 3 weeks after a pile driver to the neck or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. Orton is due. He's long overdue, unless he's actually injured. Do you know if it's just like, hey, you're okay, or was
Yeah,
he actually hurt?
could be. I don't know. I thought it was just completely story, but there could be
I
something
did
else.
too, but it was so long, and that's
Exactly.
why I
Yeah.
thought there's something more to it. But
Is there maybe
shit.
something to like, I just thought of this now. Randy took like a more standard pile driver, and then the other two took a package pile driver, which is like looks more devastating, I think. But that's the only like variance on how they were
Sure.
delivered, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I keep calling him a fisherman pile driver. Um, but yeah, the package pile driver, there could be a difference. You know, it's funny in the execution. I could see why they let KO do it because it is technically for the bump, probably safer because he can guide. It's like guardrails with
Yeah,
holding the
true,
arms.
true.
And I feel like the brunt of the bump is actually like on the top of the back here right before the neck, and I
Yeah,
think most of it goes into the hamstring, and they can kind of pull up the weight to make sure none of the head is aimed at the mat.
yeah,
But as far as like wrestling goes, yeah, there might be something to that idea, because nobody thinks about how the wrestler's going to take a bump. Maybe the old marks, but not the new marks.
yeah.
I think that's one of our achievements today, John,
I
from like a
agree.
cultural perspective, differentiating between this new era of the target audience during this Netflix era and the old target audience, which is slowly, I feel like AEW would love to corner that market, but they don't know how to tell their stories. So they get the old marks in for the matches, but beyond that, the old marks go like, man, I don't care about what you have to say about what's going on in between the matches. I just want to see the action packed matches you have, and they rely on their pay per views. Weekly shows are crap.
Yeah, yeah, and that was something I was going to bring up earlier, actually, when you were talking about the amount of matches in the PLEs.
Okay.
Because yeah, that was like something that I'd be concerned about is if they're trying to book for 8 9 matches, that their
Mhm.
weekly stuff might suffer. But I don't know.
Yeah, that could be the case too. I just know that they need to settle in, WWE that is, they need to settle into not a predictable formula, but expectations for how long their show runs and utilization of the talent they have. Because I want to say they're at a 40% utilization rate if you look at the airtime given to certain superstars and you like statistically break down the amount of talent on their roster. They are not utilizing a weekly 60% of that roster.
Yeah,
And that's a shame, man. That's so terrible if you really think about it. Not only from an entertainment perspective, but from a contract perspective. You're wasting money on these people who are qualified to perform, otherwise, you wouldn't have signed them.
right. And yeah, AEW the ratios off the charts the utilization, and when they are utilized, it's not important. So it's like, uh, anyways, I guess so. Real quick, Tiffany Stratton and Trish will be fighting
Yeah.
Nia Jax and Candice LeRae. Maybe we see Charlotte. I, I guess Tiffany and Trish win because Tiffany's champion and they want some sort of momentum for her.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
That's
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 right.
my guess.
Trish is completely unnecessary. We could have entered this as a full blown rematch for closure between Nia and Tiffany, given the fact that this was Money in the Bank cash in, not a clean win.
Yeah, yeah,
So I'm a little like, whatever. I don't care what happens in this tag match because to me it has no bearings on the WrestleMania outcome, which is clearly Tiffany's going to go fully over Charlotte. If they have Charlotte win, I'm going to be questioned. There's no reason to put a title back on Charlotte. She should only be used to further establish and solidify any new big bombshell.
yeah. No, for sure. I don't think anyone is enthralled by Charlotte anymore. Like when she burst on the scene, like she truly like did trailblaze some things, and like
Yeah.
she is a phenomenal athlete and all this stuff. But like, there's better promos than her now. Bianca is just like purely a better athlete at everything.
Package.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah. So it's just like there isn't like a slot for Charlotte to be the top of the card that makes sense anymore. And
Retirement's around the corner.
probably I don't know how old she is actually, but oh, somebody we didn't see at the women's Royal Rumble match either. We didn't see Asuka.
Yeah, good point. Oh my. Yeah. Asuka's one of my faves too, man. I really love, even though it piggybacks on the Japanese cliche with the mist, I feel like all of her character work and in-ring performance is always great.
Yeah,
Io Sky, she's fantastic in the ring, but Io Sky struggles with promos where Asuka stays kind of interesting because of she's really good with body language. I guess I'm getting at that.
sure.
So, yeah, maybe I'm gonna have to do some Googling or what have you because I wonder if she's actually injured. And now I'm curious why she was absent.
Yeah, I haven't thought about her in a while either, so I don't know why I just thought of her now. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's too bad because yeah, she was basically Goldberg of NXT, like not like the bad parts of Goldberg, but like she like had some streak. I forget what it was, but it was a huge streak, and it was like wow.
No, you're right. There's either a news article or a YouTube clip of Goldberg going like, "Yeah, and can you believe W?" streak beat by some woman, and it was Asuka.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that. Are we going to see Goldberg? Let's leave. Let's end the
Yeah,
show
yeah.
like this. Are we going to see him for WrestleMania?
Oh man. No. I really don't know what that was. Had to have been probably to cater to the Saudis. I don't know why, to tease them, because we
Yeah,
thought like,
maybe he'll show up. Yeah.
yeah, I'm at a loss. I mean, I get it. They were what in Atlanta at the time, so they were like, "Hey, we're around. Be in the crowd and have Gunther take some shots at you." But beyond that, mm, I don't know. Maybe this is what they're gonna do with Gunther when he drops the title at Mania.
Like at
Maybe this
SummerSlam or
is,
something.
yeah, some crap like that. We're gonna build towards a Goldberg retirement match, and Goldberg's gonna be like, "Remember, I remember. Now we gotta fight." And
Yeah, and I think it'll probably happen at SummerSlam now that we're saying that, just because we got to keep in mind too, this is going to be the first 2 night SummerSlam, so they got to fill it somehow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and John, we have SummerSlam Minnesota 2026.
Oh yeah, let's see if I want to
Yeah.
dish out 4 grand or whatever. But
Yeah. It's going to be great. No, but for real, I
capitalism,
can't wait. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Well, still, I think it will be a fun, organized event. And plus, how cool will it be going downtown and having all the festivities
right,
around SummerSlam? It's
yeah.
going to be, yeah, something to see.
I really wanted Mania, obviously, but the stuff
We all did.
surrounding Mania that weekend is super awesome too. Like I don't know if they do it anymore since Ring of Honor's owned by AEW, but like they used to
Mm.
always have a pay per view like the same weekend, same city as WrestleMania. Um,
Oh, that's cool.
I'm sure there will be a lot of small indie shows in the area that month. Um,
Well, and that irritated me even further on SmackDown. I was like, man, they left me hanging after WrestleMania last year to then screw us over and say we're going to Vegas. And they announce weeks before this Mania where they're going next year. So I was like,
that
how distasteful.
it's that
I feel
damn
betrayed.
geography, dude. That just had to be in New
It's the
Orleans this
geography.
week.
Yeah,
Like,
totally.
what are they gonna do when Canada's the 51st state? Like,
Or Greenland.
yeah, yeah, all these people that are from Greenland whenever they have a PLE there.
Yeah, there are reindeer in there that are big fans of the WWE.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but for real, uh, it sucks that the main reason they skipped over Minnesota was weather related and climate related. They're like, it's gonna be cold in April, and it's like it's an
E-
indoor event, dude.
exactly. Yeah, I didn't get that. Like, they were apparently part of the decision was because, like, one of the nights in Philadelphia for WrestleMania 40, like, there was concern of weather problems, but that's outdoors.
Sure.
So,
It was outdoors. Yeah, that's right. So it's like, no, I'm not buying it. I just think at the end of the day, Las Vegas was a little bit more lucrative. Their come to us business strategy, where Minnesota may have been, hey, come on up, but yeah, if you don't, that's okay too.
yeah, and if they're going into like things thinking maybe it's gonna be the last Rock match we ever see, we're gonna fucking have a Rock
True.
match in Minneapolis to end his career, like
Yeah.
like Vegas. It's like yeah, but
That makes a little, yeah, more sense. Yeah, well, Sin City can have it. In my eyes, this WrestleMania is shaping up to be weaker than the last one as far as main events are concerned. But we'll see what they do with CM Punk, John Cena, Cody Rhodes. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, John. I just want to close up with I have been disgruntled about the quality of the content of weekly shows post Royal Rumble. You and I both feel the same. And so I hope Elimination Chambers return to form and gives us better direction because as it stands now, I do firmly think that this Mania will be a weaker event than the last.
yeah, this is the last big show before Mania, and yeah, they got so many holes to fill for 2 nights that they're
Yep.
gonna try to build in a month over Raws and Smackdowns. Like it just it's gonna feel like the women's War Games match where it's just assembled.
No. Yeah, that's right.
So
Oh
we don't
yeah, we
want that.
drilled down on that. Yeah.
Yeah, don't want that. Um, but yeah, thanks to everybody for returning. I'm sure, like Joel mentioned earlier, wonder where we've been, but we're
Yeah.
gonna we're gonna try to be more regular with this now that hopefully things calm down on the life side. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, did you have any closing thoughts?
Uh no, no words of wisdom. Be back, and I'm glad we got to kind of air things out and be on the same page going into this next PLE. Let's touch base about a Chronicles episode potentially, but for sure we'll have a good recap episode and have clear picture of where we're headed with the final month going into Mania.
For sure. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it despite what we were just saying. Like it's still wrestling. It's still the biggest event of the year. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us, and we will see you next time.